A warm welcome to a Podful of Saints on Wednesday, the 8th of February 2023. We're looking back on a St Albans City victory and we're looking back on a surprise St Albans City defeat. With myself, David Tavener, over there, a nodding donkey, Jake Ellacott.
Hello, Dave. Hello, Lee. Hello, everyone.
And a much more sprightly, thoroughbred Lee Wood over in the other corner.
Good Lord, man. Yes, good evening, David. Jacob, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, fine. Just a bit
What time did you get back in from Hungerford yesterday?
I got in just after 1 o'clock in the morning, this morning, actually. So not too bad, really.
You look well for it, mate.
Thank you.
And it was well worth it, Jake, yeah?
Let's not talk. Well, we have to talk about it. Maybe save it for a bit.
Right, we've got to start last Saturday. Saints at home to Hampton and Richmond Borough, National League South. They came into the game, was it one win in 13 league games, something like that? And we just picked up that excellent win at Taunton. Very much favourites for the game. Within a few minutes, we'd had booking, Ryan Blackman booked, and 4 minutes a goal down. But we bounced back. It's quite an entertaining game, I thought, first half. How was it like? What was it like for you two?
I agree. Yeah, I thought they actually came. I thought they came to the party. First 20 minutes, they were quite bright. They were getting a lot of purchase down that left hand side, and the fullbacks Tafari Moore and Devontae, they had their hands full, didn't they, for the first 20 minutes or so? I agree with you, Tabs. It was a really good game. I thought quite end to end stuff. Lots of chances. I think Rowe that scored their goal? I thought he looked really, really lively. First off, in particular, I think both keepers made a couple of decent saves. But I think the one thing it shows me is that even though we went a goal behind, we weren't particularly flustered. We didn't panic. We kept to our game plan. We got back into it relatively quickly. And as soon as we went ahead, which I thought we were good value for, although they had a few chances of their own, I thought we looked relatively comfortable. Second half, I thought the addition of McConnell was excellent. I thought he really did run them absolutely ragged. I thought Nobby used his substitution superbly well. You can see we spoke about this, didn't we, on the pod last week, how we were going to use McConnell. Sparingly, obviously, given his international exploits of the previous midweek. That said, though, boys, I thought he came on, he looked lively, he looked energetic, he created chances and he created problems for Hampton.
I think the international exploits involved friendly for errors, might be under 19s or whatever, against Aston Villa reserves or youth team or something, but it's still good experience and nothing, not knocking that at all, far from it. And actually, I thought, talking to substitution, I thought Shea Cooper came on for his debut then as well. I thought he also looked quite sharp. And because at that time, I don't know what you thought, Jake, but I thought we'd gone off a boil a bit, and bringing those two on added a new edge to our attack.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I think after they came on, we created a decent number of chances, didn't we? And we probably either luck or just misfortune, sort of, just weren't able to put them away. We had a couple of, we almost scored, Hampton almost scored a couple of own goals as well. Alan Julian kept a couple out. And yeah, Cooper with a brilliant left-footed effort that crashed off the bottom of the post, which was very unlucky. But yeah, I thought Nobby used substitutions well. And as Lee said, really fun, entertaining game. But, never felt incredibly worried. But when you've only got that one goal lead, you always think, this is St Albans City. You just never know. So I thought the substitutions worked well. And I thought overall we managed it pretty well in the end.
Scoring was done and dusted in the first quarter of the game. 22 minutes, Zane Banton got what proved to be the winner. Sean Jeffers got our 50th goal of the season. His first goal against Hampton in our colours in about a fifth attempt, I think. I haven't seen the highlights yet. He had 2 goals disallowed for offside. Were they the right decisions?
First one looked probably was offside, wasn't it? I thought the second one was a bit dubious, to be fair. I mean, you've seen them given. But I mean, to be fair, it's just beautiful to watch us attacking, isn't it? And the way it unfolds and the amount of options we've got at our disposal now. As Jake said, very astutely as well, it was 2-1, but we always looked in control. We always had the better of the ball. We used it a bit more intelligently. We used it creatively as well. So, and I think what you're seeing now is all these players coming into the fore, your Blackmans and your Connells, etc., and your Coopers. You know, they're just slotting straight in and they're hitting the ground running, which is a fantastic element to have at your disposal, especially when we've got so many games in such a short space of time as well.
Yeah, those players that came in, the starting 11 was unchanged from win at Taunton, which was fair enough, and it looked justified. Nobby's not afraid to make his substitutions early, is he? If it's not quite working or he feels it needs tweaking, he'll do it early, around about the hour mark, which is terrific, totally different to what we've had maybe for the last year, and it's working a treat.
Absolutely, but I think it shows how much faith he has in his whole squad at the minute, which is what you want. You know, previous management, as you say, they left those substitutions so late. You know, it culminated in his final game at Braintree, the substitutions coming in the 91st minute when we were chasing the game. And I think, you know, part of that was stubbornness maybe, but also maybe not a lot of faith and confidence in those players on the bench. But Nobby believes in his whole squad, which is brilliant, and he knows they can come on and maybe not have that impact of scoring goals, but helping us take control of games. And if we are to go all the way this season, you need to use your full squad.
When we beat Hampton, was it 6-0 at the Beverley back in start of November? It wasn't a 6-0 game. It could have been 3-3 at one time, but they didn't take their chances, and we did take ours, which was obviously rather useful. Since then, Mel Gwinnett's come in as manager. 7 changes they've made to that side since then. They're teetering on a relegation zone. From what we saw, you can see them getting out of trouble.
I think the issue with them is just keeping goals out. I think they look quite attacking, and they retain the ball relatively well. But the thing is, you know, you've got to stop leaking goals, which I think is the issue that we had a couple of seasons back when we were teetering on the edge of going down. You know, we were scoring 1 or 2, but we were conceding 3 or 4. So, you know, there's the balance there, isn't there? Can I just ask you boys a question? I was in the bar in the queue, and a couple of fellas in front of me, they were questioning the decision to leave Callum Adebayo out. And we spoke about this at length previously, but I thought, given the fact that, you know, he does play so well with McKenna, and De Trollio is relatively inexperienced, would it not have been better maybe to have that partnership? I guess, you know, it's justified the fact we got the win, but I just don't know whether the fact that they were running over us quite quickly in the first half, and I just didn't know whether there was an element there for sort of Cam to have come in, maybe for someone like Clark, perhaps.
Of course, Cam was dropped for the Taunton game the previous week, and we defended really well that day. We gave them very few chances. But I will say I was surprised that he was dropped. I hadn't really expected it. It worked well for the 2 games, although Hampton, as you say, Lee, they did look threatening. They did cause us problems. And we'll come on to defence for last night's game in a little while. But I agree with you. I was surprised he was dropped.
Yeah, same. And I think, you know, up till he was dropped, I think we sort of said on the podcast, didn't we, that he's probably been our best defender so far this season, at least central defender-wise, with the way he's commanded and grown with Joy as well, and that partnership he's built there. So bit of a surprise. And I think as well, the surprise at Taunton was that De Trollio's come back in straight off signing for Coventry City and then getting loaned back. So I think they were surprised there. But yeah, Adebayo, but then we won, didn't we, against Hampton? So
that's it, mate, isn't it? It's justification, isn't it? I mean, don't forget that I think that McKenna's come on leaps and bounds as well this season.
Yeah.
But isn't it? It's a nice headache to have, you know, to have all these players, especially defensive players, at Nobby's disposal, because that wasn't always the case. We were often scraping around to sort of try and find someone to play centre back, or one of the 3. So it's good times to have.
Yeah, and I mean, even Michael Clark, not long ago, he wasn't getting a sniff in the squad, was he? So he's come back in and sort of played himself back into the team as well.
Yeah.
Didn't you make Joy McKenna your man of the match in your NLP report, Jake?
Well, I thought he was. To be honest, I thought Joy was very, very good against Hampton. Myself, I think he stood out. He I thought for me carried the defence and the confidence, like Lee says, that he's got at defending, but also carrying the ball out of defence now, and moving forward with it. I think he's grown brilliantly, and Lee, he's sort of basically done what we sort of asked him to do, what 6-7 months ago, hasn't he? You know, in terms of development wise.
I knew that was coming. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows that he wasn't my favourite player 18 months ago, but I think he was making quite a lot of high-profile mistakes in a very, very bad side as well. But absolutely, we did say he could be a really good player, and it's gone from polar opposites now, hasn't it? He's now looking up, and we talk about our players maybe attracting some other clubs, but higher clubs. He's got to be one of them because he's young, he's an athlete, and whisper it quietly, I think he could be a future captain as well, Biffy, because he's got that stature and he leads by example. He's not a shouter. He's not randomly shouting at people for the sake of it. He leads the line extremely well, and that's why I said earlier on, I sort of agreed with the two fellas in front of us at the bar because when you look for strength in your defence, you look for those combinations, don't you? I suppose similar to a striking combination, centre mid example. Callum and Joy, they've forged that relationship over the course of the last year, and probably why it's surprising, but good surprising that Detrolio and Clark have come in and formed a similar situation as well.
One of my, or two actually, memories I take from that game last Saturday surrounding Ryan Blackman. He was booked inside the second minute. He's not got a great disciplinary record, so he was walking the line for 88 minutes where he got substituted in the second half. Two passes he put out, diagonal long passes he put out to the left flank, right into Tafari Moore's path. They were sublime. I remember seeing Ches Isaac trying to do them early in the season, and they ended up on the railway line. But these were great. These were great to watch.
First time as well, one of them. It was a real sort of slick, fast movement, 4 or 5 passes. First time, straight out, direct, attacking, get us on the front foot. And that is the sort of football now. And the players, we've got to implement that plan. Brilliant.
Yeah. Right, are we done and dusted with that game?
Indeed.
Yeah. 6 games unbeaten against now. First time they scored against us in those 6 games. And we maybe see you next season with Hampton. We're not sure. Right, we've got another game to talk about. Last night, Tuesday night at Hungerford Town. What could go wrong? They had one in whatever it was. I turned my notes over so I can't see. But they haven't won many. They're doing one in the FA Trophy. We went there. We were expecting to win. We got hammered 3-0. As David Noble said in his post-match interview, we got off lightly. We were flattered. And I think it's hard to disagree with any of that, isn't it, Jake?
Yes. Basically, the last sort of few weeks, didn't we? We sort of previewed Hampton a couple of times and they got postponed. We sort of said, we know that Hampton's going to be tough on a Tuesday night. We never enjoy going there. Basically, all of our nightmares came true last night. I think everything that could go wrong did go wrong, apart from we didn't get anyone sent off. That's a positive from last night.
And you got home.
Yeah, we eventually got home, and I hope all the other Saints fans that made the long journey got home as well. And I applaud everyone that went last night. Just honestly awful. We had a decent 10-minute spell midway through the first half where Mitch and Sean had 2 pretty good efforts saved by their keeper. And then that was that, basically. Just so poor, wasn't it, Dave?
You know, it's funny, Lee. You said we went a goal down on Saturday and thought, oh, well, we're confident enough we're going to turn it round. And as poorly as we were playing in that first half, the keeper made a great save from Sean Jeffers from was it crossed by, was it Tafari Moore? Or was it Mitch? One or the other, anyway.
I think it was Mitch, but it was almost point blank range, wasn't it, for the keeper?
And he also, he was, and he also made a good save, I think, from Mitch as well when he pushed it round the post, all that to one side. But they went ahead on 41 minutes. It was Dave, what's his name, Bremeng, who scored. Come on to him in a minute. And I felt then, Jake, all right, we're a goal down. We're still going to get at least a point out of this. I didn't feel we were going to lose then, as poorly as we were playing. Then we conceded that surprise second goal right on half time, as soon as they kicked off, the whistle went. And that changed it completely. We looked to be chasing it then, didn't it? And you didn't feel we were going to.
No, I'd say sort of both their goals in the first half, somewhat surprising, but that second one was a real killer, wasn't it? I think, after their first, we did sort of rally a little bit, but then to concede a second like that in added time just absolutely killed us, didn't it? And after the half time, we just didn't get that response at all, any sort of rally from the players either. In that first half, there were definitely danger signs. I think first 15 minutes, Hungerford looked really good, but we did settle into it and we did play okay. But yeah, those 2 goals at the end of the half just killed off, and it was all just very naive in the end, wasn't it?
3-0 down, 52 minutes. It should have been more. They really could have buried us, and no one could have argued about it. Right, Nobby's team selection. In the interview, the point was put to him, did you use rotation? I thought the question should have been put slightly differently. Was there a possibility of arrogance or complacency in that selection? Yes, you can understand team rotation, but we didn't have a game last Tuesday. We've not got a game next Tuesday. We'd won our last 2 games. We need to get some more points in the bank to keep a little cushion from ourselves and the sides below. If we'd been playing a side higher in the table, would he have made those changes? He left out Curran Wiltshire and Zane Banton, most notably.
I think for me, Wiltshire in midfield was the big one. I think throughout the game, I think you saw our midfield was really lacking, and we just couldn't take any control of the game in there. And as you say, not a lot of fixtures coming up, but then a big one on Saturday against Worthing. And, we did say last season that, by the end of the campaign, Kyan Wiltshire was knackered because we had no one in midfield that could step in and do a job for him and, step in those games. And now we do have midfielders, but they didn't step up last night, did they? So on one hand, I was very disappointed that Kyran didn't feature at all last night, but on the other, I do kind of understand why Nobby looked to rest him. And I think as well, Detrolio, possibly was a miss last night as well.
But hang on,
of course.
Sorry, I've got to interrupt, Dave. We can't have the conversation celebrating the amount of quality we got on the bench and our squad now, and then sort of criticise the rotation system that Nobby's got. He's obviously got a plan in place that has he got one eye on Worthing? Quite possibly. I'm sort of tending to lend with what Dave's saying. Maybe he saw the Hungerford result as like a foregone conclusion, and maybe an opportunity to use some squad players. But even so, I mean, whatever we had on our bench or in our squad, you'd like to think it's good enough to get a result at Hungerford, wouldn't you? Sorry, yeah.
And that's what the team selection looked like, Lee. You're dead right. Maybe, and it's great, isn't hindsight wonderful? Maybe he could have gone with his strongest side or perceived strongest side, won the last 2 games for an hour, and maybe we got into a 2-goal lead. It's all hypothetical, of course. And then he could have rested those players for the last half hour and brought the others on then. So it's something we never know.
So is that, I mean, okay, then let me put this to you. Do you reckon do you think that he knows what his best side actually is? I think it's horses for courses because you're playing different teams, different systems, different surfaces, etc. But I think he must have a better idea even now. I mean, he's been in the job a good few months now, that he must know his preferred starting 11.
But before the kickoff, somebody speculated to me, Callum Adebayo going back into the side. No offence, Callum. They wanted a big lump in there because Hungerford's reputation is they will bash that ball forward and play that way. They didn't. After they settled down for 20 minutes or so, Lee, on a very difficult pitch because it was freezing as the evening went on, and you can see it getting whiter. They played good football. The player I mentioned earlier, David Bremang, the striker, 2 games he played for them, 2 goals, 22 years old. He looks a real handful. Can see him moving back up the ladder again. He's coming down at the moment. We can see him going back up if he keeps this up. And also, Ryan Jones caused us a lot of problems as well, going on mazy runs. They played good football. That wasn't crash bang wallop. They deserved it for the way they played. Didn't you think so, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was some sort of agriculture football, I'd say, from Hungerford a little bit. But then it worked perfectly for them, as I say, and they did have a lot of football on the ground as well. And when they did go long, it caused plenty of issues anyway. It caused chaos in our defence. And I say they more than deserved it. I think the disappointment for me as well, second half, was there was no fight at all, was there? No, nothing. I mean, did we have one shot on target? Did we even have a shot on target second half? I can't remember. Just so poor. And
You
Dave,
were there, mate. You tell us.
well, and Dave, you talk about starting your strongest team and subbing them off. He did actually do that with Sean Jeffers, didn't he? But by that point, by that point, we were 3-0 down. So it's the polar opposite of what you were talking about. So a very unforgettable night. Yeah, and a freak result, I think. But I think definitely some signs of concern. And I think Nobby's post-match interview, he was very short, wasn't he, and very brief. But I can understand why. But quite revealing in how he talked about the lack of leaders for me on that pitch, and I think that'll be the biggest concern for him.
Well, you don't like to see Sean go off because you feel chances of getting a goal now have sunk even lower. But it did tend to kick up the backside, as you said. It wasn't any leadership coming through. There was no leadership on the pitch, and I've also felt there was no leadership off the pitch because we were 2 down. No, we were 3 down early in the second half, and we were still doing these silly goal kicks where Dylan Berry touches it 2 yards to a centre half or someone, and it's up to him to dribble his way past the players who are coming on him. And we take ages to get the ball forward. We were supposed to be chasing that game. We gave ourselves limited chance. And in the set pieces, corners, free kicks, even with long throws, we had everybody back. So there's no way we could counter-attack quickly and try and find a route back into that game. We made it maybe more difficult than it should have been. We allowed them to come at us.
Fellas, can we perhaps put this into some sort of context? We had a really good result at Taunton. We had a really good result at home to Hampton. Is this just a bad day at the office? I know, Jake, you mentioned the word concerns there. Is it just that? Is it just a small blip, or was there, fundamental things there that we can perhaps dissect at a later date? Because the thing is, good teams are allowed to have bad days. And I think we're a good side. I think there was a bad result. And I think that Nobby's reaction, as you said there, mate, the fact that he's now looking for a reaction on Saturday away to Worthing, it will give us a really good indication of where we are as a unit, as opposed to individual players. But I just wanted to know your thoughts on, is it just a blip, or are there bigger things to be concerned about?
I think it's a blip, Lee, but it could also be complacency, picking that side, not going to be perceived strongest side right from the start, maybe changing later when you're in control. And I felt possibly that fed through to Hungerford. They thought, St Albans are taking this easy today, let's get at them. And they really did get at them. They hunted in packs, they were shutting down everything. But they did an excellent job on us. So maybe we helped their mindset inadvertently. But you do fancy us to bounce back against Worthing. They've had some great results this season. They spent big to get that squad together. But it also has 1 or 2 big defeats as well. And I do fancy us to get at least a point from down there on Saturday.
I think, if the players truly want to make amends to Nobby and the supporters and the club as a whole, I think they'll go out on Saturday and give it their all, won't they? And I have total confidence that they will, and will perform much better. I think, I said it was a freak result, and I think it was. That happens. Every good team can have those. And it's just one of those situations where you got to forget about it and move on and just try and learn the lessons. I think Nobby will have. And I was pleased with how disappointed he was in that post-match. Of course, every manager's going to be, but you can sense that he was absolutely fuming with the players, and I'm sure he was very clear in how disappointed he was and what he expects from them going forward.
So Worthing on Saturday, they lost at Tunbridge Angels, didn't they, last Saturday? We had problems with them the other week. Before that, 4 straight wins, unbeaten in 7 in the league. They're having a great first season at this level. It's as big a test as you can probably get, really, apart from Ebbsfleet after losing to the bottom club.
Yeah, they're a good side, certainly. And they've got some good players. But I think the teams that often come up, they're obviously they've got some momentum, haven't they? and they're now continuing that into this season. They're no fools. They are absolutely no mugs whatsoever. And I think I'm with you, Dave. If I'm honest, mate, I think I would be more than happy at this stage, given what you guys have just said about Hungerford Town, to come away with a point on Saturday. I think before the Hungerford game, you're probably earmarking all three. But I think we've got to be realistic as well as optimistic. And I think the fact is that we've got to be, going gun-ho and being attacking is great. But if it's going to cost you one game in three, that's probably not a lot of good. We've got to stop turning these silly defeats. Let's just put the Hungerford down as that, a silly defeat, turning them into a point or two.
If you don't attack, you don't win. Look at the England cricket team. Boring, negative for so long. Last year, all-out attack, and look at their fortunes. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see us take that view. I'm not sure it will happen, but we can have faith.
Absolutely, and you've got a fresh Zane Banton and a fresh Kyan Wiltshire to come back into that team now, and Detrolio as well. So 3 players there who, up until Hungerford game when they were dropped to the bench, have looked really, really good recently. So I think that could definitely help, and I think that midfield battle will be key against Worthing. We know that they're a really strong, intense side. They're going to be pressing very high. And I think that midfield battle is going to be key, because if you lose that, then you haven't got much of a chance down there. So it's going to be difficult. We know it's a 3G surface. I think it'll be really conducive to some really good passing football from both teams. But we've got to go there confident, haven't we? Because aside from Hungerford, I think we've looked pretty good recently. And I think it's just making sure, as you guys said, attack, get those shots away. Don't be afraid to go forward.
You look back at the first half of last season, how great that was. We felt it was great because of the FA Cup run as well, which helped. But the league form, we were flying. But now we're 3 points better off than we were at this stage last season. And we're only 4 points behind what we finished with last season, as last season fell away disastrously. Now, we don't want that to happen again. But it shows how Nobby has really picked things up this season. So we don't want to put the boot in too much. And we've got to pay tribute to where we are now.
I don't think we are, though, Dave, because the thing is, mate, you can only react to what's happened. And it was a bad result, Hungerford. I think what it has emphasised is just how far we've come and just how much of an impact he's made. He wasn't the owner's first choice, but he was the last choice, and he's the right choice. So as far as that element is there, he's been given a platform now. He's taken it with both hands. Look at the players he's brought in. Young, energetic, hungry players who have slotted into the system. Future professionals, future professional footballers. That is the level that he wants to bring to this side now. We can linger over the Hungerford game and the silly mistakes and decisions and this, that, and the other. But I think on the whole, you two are absolutely spot on, in so much that we've got to look forward. And the way we've taken games to teams the last 2 months has been nothing less than fascinating, if nothing else, considering it's largely the same group of players, bar 1 or 2 names. But the fact is that now everyone is contributing as well. We're finally getting to play like a team, as opposed to so reliant on 1 or 2 individuals as well. We go into Saturday confident, of course we do, because we're St Albans City and we're playing well and we're high up in the form guide, boys. Let's not forget that. But I think I'm really, really pleased with the attitude that Nobby's taken in these post matches now, and how angry he was. I suppose Ian's done 1,000 times more press conferences and interviews afterwards. So I think over the course of time, they sort of just, monotonise themselves. But I think that Nobby was angry. You saw that. And that's what you want from a manager after such a capitulation against a very, very poor side, really.
He didn't look poor last night, Lee. I'll give him credit the way they played football. But they results and whatnot suggest it. They had 7 changes when they were down the park. And don't forget, they got a point there. We're the only side to have played them twice this season and not scored against them, which is something of a surprise. You mentioned about these young professionals who go on to better things in the game, and we hope so. Of course, no Glenn McConnell last night, because he's playing hopefully he's playing for Cambridge United Youth in the FA Youth Cup against Sheffield Wednesday tonight. But again, that shows the fragility of that side with the lone players. We haven't got first call on them. and we're getting away with it at the moment. And we
Yeah.
had it with Mamadou Joe the other week when he suddenly disappeared.
True, but then I don't think McConnell would have changed anything last night. The way we performed and the way Hungerford performed. So it happens. It's the risk, and it's possibly part of the relationship of why we've been able to extend his loan, because we've sort of been willing to support his involvement in their FA Youth campaign still. So on one hand, it's negative. On the other hand, it's not so bad. And hopefully, touch wood, he avoids injury tonight and can feature on Saturday for the Saints.
Yeah. Any predictions then for the? I don't mean score for the team for Saturday.
God knows.
I guess you see Wiltshire and Bantam coming straight back in.
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? I mean, I think the Bantam is probably one of the first names on the team sheet this season. You certainly see him coming back. Bare minimum, yeah.
Then who goes out for those two? And does Detrolio come back in as well? Or do you chuck Glenn McConnell in as well?
I think Cooper will come out for Banton probably, and I think Monash will probably come out for Kyron. I don't think Monash had one of his best performances in a City shirt last night in midfield. I thought he really struggled, to be honest. So I think it'll probably be for them too. And I myself would put Detrolio back in. I think he looked really good against Taunton. Clean sheet there against a team and at a place where Taunton, since losing to us, have turned over a couple of teams now, and played his part against Hampton. And I think, as well, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's going to be an opportunity for a lot of passing football on Saturday, and we're going to need someone who's good under pressure on the ball. And I think Detrolio can be that. So myself, I would bring him in, but we'll see.
Monash also picked up the only booking of a night last night. Shay Cooper, his first starting appearance for us, wasn't impressive, but I felt we didn't really help him. The service he got was zilch, and eventually got substituted, but not his fault at all, I don't think, on that one.
No, and I think you could probably say that about almost any of the attacking players last night, couldn't you? Really? So I think it's exactly the same. So a bit unlucky for him. It's always tough for a low knee to be, his first start to be at Hungerford on a Tuesday night. It's not the most glamorous, is it? So it was always going to be difficult.
Right, prediction then. Where are we? Woodside Road, I think it's called, on Saturday, down at Worthing. Who's going to be brave and go for this one?
I can't. I think a draw is going to be where I'm going to have to sit, Tabs. I think 2-2 for us, to be fair.
Cool. Good one.
I think I'll go similar, 1-1 for me. I think I'd be very happy.
Not 3-1
or 2-1. I'd be very, very happy with a draw on Saturday at Worthing.
Good. I'm confident we're going to bounce back and we're going to get some positive news from there one way or another. Anyway, so we say. Right, Ian Anson, after he was departed as manager, he carried on his role as commercial director, manager, whatever. I believe we've got a replacement now, haven't we, Lee?
Yeah, just a quick thing for me is that I went to a Chamber of Commerce event last week. There was the St Albans intelligentsia were there in force, and bumped into Lawrence, had a really nice chat, very productive chat with him, and he introduced me to Chris, who's the new commercial manager. Nice fella, Southampton fan, so at least he's going to have one decent Saints team to support this season. Yeah, really nice fella. He's looking to sort of, carry on from where Ian left off and sort of really integrate the club into their local community and the business as well. So good luck to him. He seems a nice bloke.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we've noticed the last 2 or 3 games we've not had match sponsors, and you would have thought we managed to get those quite easily. It just shows how important this position is.
I was actually offered a spot in the club's boardroom on Saturday as part of the match sponsors. Could you imagine, Dave? I would have got you up there, mate. Maybe done like a live pod from the boardroom. That'd have gone down well, fellas, wouldn't it?
It's a testament, isn't it, to Ian Allenson and what he did in the sort of that sort of side of the club. Away from the first team management, how he's managed to improve us off the field with the sponsorships, etc. So hopefully this new person that's come in will be able to replicate that and follow in his footsteps, because whoever owns your football club at this level, you need good sponsors, bring that money in. Otherwise, you're going to struggle, aren't you? So it's really good that we've replaced him, and hopefully he can do a very similar job.
Indeed.
Cool.
Right, I've only got one message. Get well quick. Get well soon, Will. I'm glad you didn't get cold last night. And that's me done.
What's the matter with Will? What's it? Has he got a cold?
Sort of.
Get well soon, Will.
Exactly. Yes.
Just
Right.
a quick thing from us is that we've had some lovely messages and tweets, haven't we, Jake, over the last week about the pod and the angles in which we're attacking things from. So not everyone is pleased. Not everyone's pleased, Professor. Good evening. But if you want to get in touch with us, Jacob here, who's a bit more despondent today, but he's going to perk you up now with giving you the contact details for us.
Yes, it's at Podful of Saints on Twitter, and you got the email as well. I think, thank you as always for everyone that watched last week's episode. Absolutely brilliant. So, thanks as always. And I suppose that's it from us, isn't it? So
it is.
Well, to make you feel better, Jack. To make you feel better, I came home via the A34. That was shut, unannounced, roadworks halfway up it, so I got diverted as well. And Tim Petty says the M4 was also closed for roadworks, so we all had a fun trip getting home last night.
And I enjoyed the highlights of Hungerford Tesco Express and Hungerford train station, which me and Matt just wandered around for half hour. So there you go, the places you go following the Saints.
On that note,
we will
See you on the beach on Saturday.
Bye-bye, everyone.